Hi, everyone. This is Randy Speck from DisruptED TV. And I'm glad to be with you guys. I'm coming from really, really cold and snowy and icy Detroit, Michigan. And I'm on the line here with my good buddy, Bob Smiley. Bob, he is coming from a little warmer climate, which is?
Houston, Texas. Yeah, it's a balmy 72 degrees here. My kids were outside laying down making dirt angels, trying to keep the winter spirit alive. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it is it got up to 10 degrees here yesterday, which I was able to take off one layer of clothes or one layer of coats, which was fantastic. Don't want to do any layers of clothes for anybody.
Yeah, there are roads leading out of Michigan, right?
I know. The problem is I can't get past the potholes to get out of Michigan. Listen, Bob and I have known each other for a long time. He is in the business of making people laugh and bringing humor to their life. He is in the business of being a comedian. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. But one of the things that I wanted us to talk about today on this edition of Leading UnAfraid with DisruptED TV is to talk about creativity within schools, because a lot of times, we are tasked with bringing kids in. We've got reading scores, we got math, we've got all of this stuff, science, and we talk robotics, and we talk all this kind of stuff. But do we talk about creativity? Are we teaching, or are we allowing kindergartners to still be creative when we're at the same time trying to do other things for them? So Bob, your dad was a superintendent. You grew up in a school administrator type household. What was that like for you, and what was school like for you?
It was great. I had very good parents. My mom was a teacher for many years, and then actually ended up retiring as a principal. So it wasn't even just my dad, but my dad was my school superintendent. I went to a school. The town had 281 people in it. I had 17 in my graduating class. I know that because my girlfriend got ranked 17th. So it's easy to remember that. But yeah, very, very small, tiny school. So my dad was always walking around the hallways. He was very active. He was actually really loved by the students. He was very funny. That's kind of where I got my sense of humor. So my dad, I was trying to think of some things that my dad would do. My ears were this big when I was born. And so one time my dad came over the intercom and he was like, can we have everybody's attention? Bob Smiley, you left your earmuffs in the parking lot and we can't get the buses out, and stuff like that, like little just jokes and stuff. And my dad would come eat with me during the cafeteria during lunch time. And my dad and I, we didn't really plan this, but we would have lunch together, about once or twice a week. And man, it was the popular table because everybody wanted to sit and listen to me and my dad kind of rehash the last couple of days. And we wouldn't plan anything out, but we would just sit and be funny, and everybody would gravitate toward that. So it was actually a really good experience having my parents up there. They were obviously very active and into what I was doing and what my brother was doing. And so when we got home, we didn't have the conversation of like, how was your day? They knew how my day was, right, because a lot of times I would end up in the office. To see
hey, Dad. Hey, I'm here again. Or whoever. Hey. Oh, here's a question about that and about engagement with, I know he was your dad, but you've got your other, friends and people around, and they're also having engagement with your dad, but he's also the superintendent or school administrator, whatever it is. In the district that I'm at, and again, this is going out to school administrators all over, and there is the balance. I don't even know if it's a balance. Maybe we try to make it the balance of how involved or engaged are we going to be with kids? Because we've got reports that we got to fill out. We got policy that we got to look at. We've got all this adult stuff that we really don't want to do. In many ways, we want to be hanging out with the kids. I mean, my district, it doesn't matter if it's a 5-year-old or if it's an 18-year-old at our alternative high school. They know if they see me, they usually know my name. I usually know them. We're hugging, we're high-fiving, and all that kind of stuff. Do you think that matters? I mean, it mattered in your smaller environment, but do you think that matters for people, for kids, to see administrators really engage with them that way?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I know firsthand just how busy, administrators and you are. I mean, you say to me all the time, Netflix doesn't watch itself. So I know you have a lot of stuff to do, but
I got 3 episodes I got to catch up on as soon as we're done.
Yeah. Phineas and Ferb, they made a lot of episodes. No, I think it's paramount, because here's what set my dad apart. And I didn't even realize this until after I got out of high school, but everybody liked my dad. And I think honestly, because even the kids that would get in trouble a lot, and my dad would hold them accountable, or, you know, they would get in-school suspension or stuff like that. They always knew that my dad cared about them. Yeah. And so he somehow, by walking the hallways and by spending a little bit of time getting to know the students and letting them know that, you know, he's going to be firm, he's going to be tough, and he's going to take care of all the other duties that he has to do. Like you said, paperwork and all. Like, so he worked really hard, but that personal connection, I think, is what set the kids up for success. It made them realize, like, oh, if I mess up, you know, I may get in trouble, or it may set me back a little bit, but this administration truly cares about me and my well-being. And I think that really sunk in. And I think, again, you know, I think humor really helped with that, because my dad was a likable, funny guy. And so it allowed him, you know, comedy breaks down walls. And so I think kids that might've been nervous or whatever, they, you know, you make them laugh, all of a sudden that wall's down. And then you just see him as like a guy who actually does care and is relaxed and, you know, ready for the day and ready to help kids out.
One of the things that I see, and maybe you've seen it with your own kids in school as they've gone through school, is when you have classrooms, when you have teachers, and certainly school administrators who do that, who are more vulnerable, because teachers, for whatever reason, we got this mentality years ago in school administrators that we have to know everything, we have to have all the answers, we cannot be wrong, and we certainly can't be funny. And so that if we have a classroom or a school environment that is anything other than brown carpet and white walls, then we're not supposed to be the Disney World, a place we're supposed to teach kids how to read and write and do math and things like that. But there has been a movement over the last several years to break all that kind of stuff down, to be more vulnerable, and to let kids know, I can hold you to a certain standard with academics because we are here to guide you in some education, but we can have a good time at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Kids need to walk in the classroom and feel welcomed, feel like a kind of a home environment. And a lot of kids, they come from homes that are not pleasant. And so a lot of times that's their that's their sanctuary. And so, yeah, the more you can connect with the kids, the more they're going to know that you have their back. I think the problem, and I think this is why it swung so far the other way for a while, was having structure and discipline in the classroom. And I think a lot of things, happened that kind of took away the power of keeping it structured. So having a fun, crazy classroom can get out of hand. Right. But I think now people are finding a balance of how to do that. And so, yeah, I'm kind of actually excited about that.
What did you see for you as a student? And again, we've talked about, you're on the road all the time. You're doing comedy concerts all over the place for people. So we've also talked about that you really haven't had a real job in a while.
I mowed some lawns.
You mowed some lawns back in the day, but you were able to take the humor that you had instinctively as a person. You worked really hard. I mean, all that being aside, you've worked incredibly hard. Did school help with that?
Absolutely. So
I'm actually surprised that you say that a little bit, and we'll talk about creativity and artistic, but I'm interested in how school helped with that.
Well, I'm going to be honest. My answer is going to be really focused on, because I actually submitted a term paper for high school to my English teacher to see if I can get that grade brought back up, because I'm still not giving up. But
right, keep trying.
So I attribute my kind of start to comedy was, one, I had great parents. They were very funny, very loving parents. And so I found a natural joy in life. And I was surrounded by comedy all the time. The other thing was my teachers did a great job with realizing that I was a little hyper kid, and I was really focused on comedy. I love making people laugh. And so rather than trying to squelch that down, they would, and my English teacher, ironically, Miss Heinzman, she actually pulled me aside one time and she said, "You have a real natural flair for writing comedy. And so I'm going to let you, in your term papers and stuff, I still want you to follow the guidelines. But if you want to do a little more creativity in your writing, in your term papers and stuff, I think that's something that's going to help you later on in life." I wasn't thinking about doing a comedy career or anything like that, but just her realizing that I had that little creativity spark in my brain. And rather than her trying to squelch it, she was like, let's build this. Let's follow this rabbit hole and see if this is, somewhere that might, lead him to, a different future than even what he's thinking of. All through school, I tried to be very respectful in class. And I found that if I was very respectful for the teachers, they would then in turn realize that I'm not trying to sabotage the class, but like I would smile or kind of laugh to myself if I thought of something funny. And then a lot of teachers would actually stop the class and go, I see you laughing. What are you thinking of? So they would even let me say what I would have said anyway, but probably gotten in trouble. So there's a give and take relationship between the student and the teacher, but just knowing that those teachers had my best interest at heart, and they weren't trying to stifle me, but they were trying to teach me how to let my creativity outlet, follow the right path, if that makes sense. And so I had lots of encouragement by teachers back then.
Well, I mean, maybe that's what we go to when we talk about what could be the root of someone's passion to do something, or the beginning stages to that. And we try to tie that into teachers and what's happening with schools. I mean, we all think about that one teacher who did this for us. And you just mentioned your English teacher. To a degree, we're looking for teachers. I want to hire teachers who are going to be able to do that. And you don't know it until they're in the classroom, until they're actually working. But you're looking for people who, again, they have the content knowledge, but that's like number 5 on my list of things that I'm wanting when I hire someone, because I want them to find that something in that kid who it's going to instill some kind of spark or passion or whatever it is, even if it means taking them off the lesson plan for the day.
Yeah, I think it's kind of, this may sound like a stretch, but it's kind of like racquetball. I know how to play racquetball, but when I show up and I play racquetball against 4 of my friends individually at different times, they don't even know each other, but I show up, and so I know how to play racquetball. But when that other person walks into the court with me, I have to change my strategy based on how he's playing, how things are going. Right. So I'm not just walking in with my idea of this is how I'm going to serve every time. This is how I'm going to play it. I'm going to read that other person and know how to play against that other person. So I think we have to do that with the kids. We have to, invest the time to get to know the kids individually, and then find out what is the best avenue to be able to reach them, to allow them to see their full potential. And that just comes with just knowing the kids, and also walking in, like you said, not with this set lesson plan of this is the way it's going to be. We're going to do this minute by minute, but be ready to ad lib.
How has it worked for your kids in school? What have they been able to, or at least as a parent, have you been able to take those experiences, and when you're talking to teachers, or at least see in your boys creativity flourish, or are some of them more of, I need that structure? They're your kids, so I mean, I can't imagine. I'd be interested in knowing how much structure they like.
Well, thanks to my oldest son, Coulter, I've gotten to talk to lots of teachers and principals throughout the years. The apple didn't fall too far from the tree. So Coulter's my scatterbrain, crazy kid. So he needed to have some outlet, and several teachers throughout his, especially high school career, were great about realizing that. So they would let him, one teacher actually let him doodle on the side of his test, because that helped he was thinking about the test question, but he had to be doing something. He had to be, something moving. And they realized that kind of up front. And so one teacher even let him doodle on the side of the test, and his test grades improved once he did that. And I didn't know that. I didn't come to her and say that. It was just, she watched him. And so my 16-year-old now, Trent, he is straight A, very, he shows up. So all he wants to know is what is expected of me, what is due, and then I'll do it. And so I never have to go, hey, have you done your homework tonight? He comes home, he does it. He does. So
he's a rule follower. He's your rule follower.
Total rule follower. So he doesn't need all that. So, but the teachers do a good job they realize that's what he's like. So they just give him the assignment. And a lot of times they'll give him an assignment, the assignments for the week, and then say, here it is, if you want to go ahead and start early on it. but we're going to cover it in class. And that just puts his mind at ease, because then he can work on the stuff like he wants to. He's not having to sit there and wait. We were kind of having a problem with him just getting bored in class, but the fact that he knew where they were going, knew what was going on, that really helped him engage more in the classroom and with the homework. So yeah, I've been, so I usually do Friday, Saturday shows, and then I'm home all week. And like you said, yeah, I don't work. So I volunteer up at school a lot. They got a Watchdog Dad program here in Texas and stuff, and where you can go up and do stuff. So I got to watch a lot of that, and I was very impressed with how the teachers would get to know the kids individually and figure out the best way to encourage them to engage. I think that's the best thing. You don't want kids just glassy-eyed, and again, that comes from teachers somehow finding a way to let kids know that they actually care.
Right. Yeah. When kids are coming, they are now kids, when they're coming out of college and they've gone to school because they want to be a teacher, and colleges are giving them all of this content information about classroom management, and then they've got to learn how to teach kids how to read, math, all this kind of stuff. If I had one thing that I would want to say to colleges about preparing folks to be teachers, it is about learning how to build relationships. Be that person, again, whether was a first grade teacher or 11th grade teacher, be that person who's standing there at the door when kids are coming in, and they know what your high five sign is, or your handshake, all this kind of stuff. Make sure when kids are coming to you, because you're right, a lot of kids that we have in our school district and all over the place, they're coming to us from poverty. They're coming to us from neglect. They're coming to us with all kinds of experiences that I didn't have to live. Listen, my toughest decision when I was 17 years old was I going to tight roll my jeans to the left or tight roll my jeans to the right.
Yeah.
And these kids come with a different kind of decision-making process in their life. And we have the opportunity to make a huge difference in their life. Leave us with this. If you were creating maybe the perfect school, the perfect classroom, what's in it? And I don't mean things on the wall, but what's the culture inside of it?
Well, I mean, things in the classroom, I would say a good Bob Smiley DVD would be, I got to get a commercial in.
Right. And you can find that on what website?
BobSmiley.com, which is Mr. Speck's homepage, I believe. That's great. No, okay, I'm going to get really personal on this because it's something I'm passionate about. So I know, probably everybody watching this doesn't know my story, but 4 years ago, my wife just walked away from us, not empty-handed. Somebody else was holding the hand, ironically. But she did. She left, and my kids, I mean, we didn't see it coming, and my kids were and myself were broken, and we went through a big time of depression. And one of the first things that I did was I went up to the school and I talked to the kids' teachers, and I said, hey, this is what's going on. And I cannot stress enough how much easier it was to deal with the kids and deal with the situation that we were, faced with, because of teachers. Like you said, the second they walked in that school, there were teachers loving on them. There were teachers just checking in on them. Just a quick walk by the lunchroom, hey, Xander, how you doing? I'm good. How you really doing? And I saw these teachers invest in my kids' lives more than ever, because it was the time to do that. And so that's what I want to see when kids walk in the classroom. If you can just let them know, and I sound like a broken record here, but if you can just let them know that you actually do care, and that it's not all about the test grades or all about the lesson that a plan, that's the whole reason they're there. But in the grand scheme of things, if you can invest in their lives, it's going to allow you to teach. It's going to allow you to connect with them more. So that's what I want to see in the classroom is just a warm environment where, it actually, looks like you do care and love those kids that walk in your classroom. And if you're in that profession, you do care. So that's what I want to see.
Yeah. I think it's fair for that to be a broken record of saying that our classrooms and our schools and our hallways in our cafeterias with our food service folks and our custodians who are there early in the morning and late at night, when the entire school culture, from the principals or the superintendents all the way throughout to everyone, is showing a kid that he cares or she cares, then that means everything. Hey, listen, we've been friends a long time. We joke about you not having a job, but you're one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. You mentioned bobsmiley.com. Where else can they find you on Twitter and some other places?
Twitter, I'm Bob Smiley Comic. On Facebook, if you're over 40 and still on Facebook, Bob Smiley Comedy. And Instagram, I'm Bob Smiley Comic. And and I'm traveling all over the country. So, hopefully I'll get up to Michigan soon.
I hope so, man. Well, listen, folks, check him out, bobsmiley.com. This has been a great episode. Brother, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today.
Yeah, always good to talk to you, Randy.
Thanks. Bye-bye.